It's all or nothing. That's how FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb describes his agency's new approach to the regulation of tobacco products, including e-cigarettes. In a bombshell announcement, Commissioner Gottlieb outlined a comprehensive framework for nicotine regulation that, on the one hand, aims to reduce nicotine in combustible cigarettes to levels that are near or entirely non-addictive, and on the other, establishes a robust and sustainable foundation for the regulation of the vaping industry, one that recognizes harm reduction benefits and fosters innovation. With the new Trump administration came a new FDA commissioner, and with Dr. Scott Gottlieb came a 180-degree change in how FDA plans to regulate tobacco products.
As a physician who cared for hospitalized cancer patients, and as a cancer survivor myself, I saw firsthand the impact of tobacco. And I know all too well that it's cigarettes that are the primary cause of tobacco-related disease and death. Why nicotine? Because nicotine lives at the core of both the problem and ultimately the solution to the question of addiction and the harm caused by combustible forms of tobacco. Nicotine is astonishingly addictive, and when nicotine is attached to cigarette smoke particles, it's not only highly addictive, but an addictive mix of chemicals, disease, and death. But nicotine in cigarettes is not directly responsible for the cancer, the lung disease, the heart disease that kill hundreds of thousands of Americans every year. But it's the other chemical compounds in tobacco and in the smoke created by setting tobacco on fire that directly and primarily cause the illness and death, not the nicotine. We need to envision a world where cigarettes lose their addictive potential through reduced nicotine levels, and a world with less harmful alternative forms of efficiently delivering satisfying levels of nicotine are available for those adults who need or want them.
Commissioner Gottlieb stressed the importance of finding the right balance between FDA fulfilling its vital consumer protection role while also fostering innovation when it comes to potentially less harmful forms of nicotine delivery, such as vaping products, which as of May 2016 were deemed to be tobacco products and became subject to a stringent new regulatory process. But following Commissioner Gottlieb's announcement, FDA issued a stunning 5-year extension on a series of compliance deadlines, including the dreaded Premarket Tobacco Application process, which many analysts regarded as industry killing.
As a comprehensive public health package, it's really all or nothing. In a world where FDA is pursuing how to regulate nicotine levels in cigarettes, and combustible cigarettes are one day far less addictive, can we take the time to make sure we have in place the foundational elements of a robust and sustainable framework for regulating the non-combustible forms of nicotine delivery? That means extending further some of the compliance deadlines for newly deemed products, primarily electronic cigarettes and cigars, that were previously extended. All of the requirements for newly deemed products that have already gone into effect will continue to stay in force. In addition, we'll also be revising the so-called sunset policy through additional guidance so that existing products under review remain on the market. The current policy could have forced existing products off the market. We'll also be working to put in place a more comprehensive, transparent, and vigorous regulatory framework that will make our regulatory efforts more sustainable. As we move forward, I also hope that we can all see the potential benefits to addicted cigarette smokers in a properly regulated marketplace for products capable of delivering nicotine without having to set tobacco on fire. The prospective benefits may be even greater for the subset of current smokers who find themselves unable or unwilling to quit. It's incumbent upon us as regulators to explore both the potential public health benefits and the risks of this new technology with an open mind. And I can assure you, from my discussions with the leadership of the Center for Tobacco Products, that FDA is bringing just that mindset to this task at hand.
While Commissioner Gottlieb has steered FDA towards a more positive approach to vaping, his remarks were not all sunshine and roses. The commissioner voiced deep concerns about the industry targeting youth with kid-appealing flavors, and he provided a stark assessment of the ongoing divisive battle between participants from all sectors in the tobacco harm reduction debate.
I have real concerns about kids' use of e-cigarettes, and I know many others share those concerns, especially for those products marketed with obviously kid-appealing flavors. As soon as the FDA deeming rule went into effect last summer that extended our authority to include ends, cigars, and other tobacco products, FDA started enforcing provisions that, for the first time under federal law, made it illegal to sell all of those products to kids. We will redouble our efforts to protect kids from all nicotine-containing products. This has to include looking at the role of kid-appealing flavors, because kids shouldn't be using any form of these products. There's the ongoing divisive debate about the pros and cons of e-cigarettes. Precious little progress has been made as competing camps dig in on the benefits and risks of harm reductionist approach to this new technology. Both sides are convinced that they are right, but we see very little progress and virtually no common ground. To succeed, participants from all sectors in the ongoing harm reduction debate need to take a step back and work together to reach greater common ground. And that common ground is worth pursuing around the ultimate harm reduction policy where cigarettes will no longer be addictive. Reframing shared objectives around the need to rethink nicotine is a start. It could help all of us achieve one public health goal I know we all share, and that's to save lives of current and future cigarette smokers.
Joining us today to discuss Commissioner Gottlieb's remarks and the new approach FDA is taking is Greg Troutman. He's an attorney and legal advocate for the vaping industry, and he's well known for winning the legal battle that struck down the state of Indiana's draconian vaping regulations. Greg, thanks for coming on the show. First off, how would you characterize the way in which FDA instituted the deeming rule before Commissioner Gottlieb took the reins of the agency?
It was a sledgehammer. It was using a sledgehammer on this industry. And there's many people in this industry, me and self included, that thought that the PMTA process was drafted in such a way that nobody could ever comply with it. That intentionally was setting this industry up to fail. And if you couldn't comply with it, then your product had to come off the market until you could comply with it, which would be never.
Greg, did the vaping industry have any inkling that the FDA might extend the PMTA process, the compliance deadlines?
Well, it wasn't a shock that we got an extension. The fact that we got a 5-year extension was a shock, and the scope of the complete mindset change on regulating tobacco, we didn't expect it. And quite frankly, from what I understand, the commissioner did not vet this with the NGOs beforehand. The market, Wall Street, was caught off guard.
That they were. Tobacco stocks, they took a beating, dropping around 10% that day. Greg, please share with our viewers your thoughts on what's going to happen next.
So the mindset of how this is going to be regulated has completely flipped from what it was, say, a year ago, even 6 months ago. What I foresee is going to happen is the deeming rule as we know it now is going to be revised, either with legislative enactment or at the agency level. It's going to change. I think there's still going to be a PMTA process of some form or fashion. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be more streamlined, and it's going to be a goal that's going to be capable of being attained.
The idea being that it doesn't kill the industry, it just regulates the industry.
Correct. And the industry needs regulation. We need guardrails on the industry. One of the things that the industry has been very immature in its evolution at this point. I've seen more responsibility among distributors and manufacturers in the last 2 weeks, and retailers as well in the last 2 weeks, than I had in the last 4 years. Where when it comes to misbranded, mislabeled products, child packaging, child marketing, stores are actually now taking a hard line on this, and distributors are taking a hard line on it too. Because I think the handwriting's on the wall. If we don't do this and get our act together, if we want this industry to survive, we have to do this, because it's going to be done for us.
And Greg, that's already happening, isn't it? Besides the NGOs, there's now a concerted political effort led by Senate Democrats pressuring FDA Commissioner Gottlieb to implement major restrictions on vaping. They've sent a series of letters to the FDA, and we're talking about high-profile senators here like Elizabeth Warren, Sherrod Brown, Patty Murray, and Dianne Feinstein, just to name a few.
Well, they've articulated the position formally that we all knew they had. I don't look at that letter as a negative. I look at it as a positive, because it tells us what we have to negotiate. The industry has to negotiate with that segment. The problem with the industry is it's so fractured from an advocacy standpoint. We don't speak with one voice. Let's assume that there's negotiations going on behind the scenes between the Senate Democrats, FDA, and the White House. Let's assume that's happening. There's who from this industry is a spokesperson or spokespersons to sit at the table and bargain and negotiate for the industry. Part of the problem is, as I see it, that things happen in DC very slowly, but they also happen very quickly. And is this industry able to mobilize itself and coalesce itself quickly enough to meet that breakneck speed?
So, Greg, final question. What's it going to take to get the vaping industry then all on the same page?
It's going to take some concessions on the part of all of the advocacy groups to fight for the benefit of the industry, something bigger than they are. It's not just one advocacy group. It's not just one personality or one person. It's much bigger than that. And if the industry is willing to put aside personality, put aside ego, put aside interest, and come together for a common benefit, which is for this industry, it can get done. But it's got to get done very quickly, because things are in, I guarantee you, are in the works. And if there are negotiations going on, discussions going on, they're going to move on this with or without us.
Well, that's it for this edition of RegWatch. Before you head off, please like us on Facebook and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. For RegulatorWatch.com, I'm Brent Stafford.